Good morning, everybody. It's Friday. That means that Shabbos is going to be here soon. I want to share with you an inspiring thought on the Parsha of this week. This Parsha's Ba'aloscha, has many fabulous, fascinating concepts and ideas, but one of the things that is mentioned over and over again in this Parsha is the description of the way the Jewish people traveled during the 40 years that they were in the desert. And the verse continuously says, this refrain that repeats itself, Al pi Hashem yachanu v'al pi Hashem yisa'u, which means that everywhere they would go during that time, during the 40 years in the desert, they were going Al pi Hashem, wherever Hashem led them. See, they had this cloud, and this cloud surrounded them by day and by night, and wherever the cloud would go, they were traveling. They were literally in a bubble. They were inside of a cloud, and wherever they would go, wherever the cloud would go, they would travel. And that cloud was the divine presence. So they were enveloped and embraced in all directions by the divine presence, by Hashem's holiness and His blessings. And they felt it, and they knew it. Al pi Hashem yachanu v'al pi Hashem yisa'u. Over and over again, they packed up and they traveled according to Hashem's plan, and they encamped according to Hashem's plan. Now, there's an interesting debate in the Talmud. One of the 39 categories of work that's prohibited in the Talmud is something called soter. Soter means dismantling or breaking down something, a building or a structure. And the reason for that is because one of the things that was done in the building of the Mishkan, was the building of the tabernacle in the desert, was dismantling it every time they traveled. And we know that the 39 categories of work that you cannot do on Shabbos are learned out from the 39 categories of work that went into the Mishkan. Fine. So there's a debate in the Talmud. What if you dismantle something? Let's say you have a hut in your backyard, and you dismantle this hut with the intention of rebuilding it in the exact same place where it was. Is that a violation of Shabbat or not? So the opinion of Rabbi Yossi in the Talmud is that is indeed a violation of Shabbat. But the Talmud asks, but wait a minute, it's only a violation of Shabbat if it's done the same way that it was done in the times of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. And then they would dismantle the tabernacle and they would go travel somewhere else and they would build it in the new place. So if you dismantle it with the intention of rebuilding it in the identical place, that's not the same way that it was done in the desert. So the Talmud answers with a cryptic answer and says, yeah, but it says in the Torah, Al pi Hashem yachanu v'al pi Hashem yisa'u, which is our verse, which means whenever Hashem said so, they broke down the camp, and whenever Hashem said so, they rebuilt the camp. And that means that they were completely enveloped in Hashem's presence. Now, I'll give you an example. If you imagine there's a caravan traveling through the desert, and there's a little baby, and the little baby is in her mother's arms the entire time that they're traveling. Now, if you were to ask this baby, obviously the baby can't talk, but if you were to ask the baby and the baby could talk, where are you? The baby's not going to give you, coordinates of where they are in the desert. The baby's going to say one thing: I'm in my mother's arms. It doesn't matter where the mother is and where the caravan is. This baby knows one thing: I'm in my mother's arms. When the Jewish people traveled for 40 years in the desert, enveloped by the divine presence and the clouds of glory, where were they? They were always in the same place, inside Hashem's presence, inside Hashem's clouds. So when they broke down the Mishkan and they rebuilt it, to them, from their perspective, it felt as if they were rebuilding it in the exact same place that they had broken it down from, which is in the cloud, inside the divine. The message over here is that it is possible to live in a reality of being completely surrounded by the divine presence. That's really what Shabbos is all about. Shabbos is a time when all of the normal mundane activities of the week, all of the things that we have to worry ourselves and concern ourselves with that are involved in earning a living and building a livelihood and building a life, are removed. And all I have to do on Shabbos is dwell in the presence of the divine and feel the blessings of Shabbos and the warmth and the smells and the tastes and the joy and the connection that comes along with Shabbos. Al pi Hashem yachanu, v'al pi Hashem yisa'u. that when you're in Shabbos, you're dwelling in that reality, in that zone, in that spiritual dimension called Shabbos. And it's the most beautiful thing in the world. So I'm wishing everyone, every one of you, a wonderful, sweet, beautiful, inspiring Shabbat Shalom.